What's up, hackers? Welcome to Saturday Hacker Day. My name is Taggart, and today we have a lot of red team, blue team, well, purple team stuff to get to. But first, as always, we're going to start with This Week in Cyber, starting with a story that is near and dear to my heart, given how much I've been contending with this particular flavor of malware recently. Chrome Loader has grown up. Instead of just dropping potentially unwanted programs or malware or adware or spyware, no, Chrome Loader is now being used to deliver ransomware. In this story from the Register, there's a note that VMware's Carbon Black MDR team is noting that Chrome Loader is being used to dump all sorts of interesting things in it. And honestly, I'm not surprised. Given how much we're seeing of this particular, I believe that Chrome Loader is getting over-attributed, honestly. I think there are multiple Chrome flavors or Chrome Loader type things that are out there that are all getting lumped under the name Chrome Loader. But generally speaking, what are we looking at? We're looking at something that launches a Chrome browser with a preloaded extension that has the ability to load malicious extensions. But I also think we're seeing sort of the same kinds of attacks also drop things elsewhere in the file system and follow sort of a more comprehensive attack chain. So take a look at this story in the Register, take a look at the linked reports, and I want to make sure that defenders are aware that this is a new set of capabilities that we have to watch out for, and just be aware of these sorts of behaviors. Because Chrome Loader, its prevalence is, let me back this up. What's the first thing that you can do, the best thing that you can do to defend your organization against Chrome Loader or even the ISO attacks that we've been testing and playing with? The best thing that you can do, 100%, do not pass go, do not collect $200. I'm just curious if chat has any thoughts. Like, the single most effective, easy win that you can put in place to prevent users from getting burned by these sorts of attacks, other than unplug the machine. Our Brins, thank you, very helpful. There is a correct answer here. For my money, the easiest, allow lists are hard. The easiest thing that you can do to prevent this from happening in the first place is deploying browsers with ad blocker extensions. Doing it by enterprise policy. So whether that's Chrome with uBlock Origin, whether you want to go Brave for your enterprise, that'd be wild. Or if you want to do this with Edge, all of that is possible. But putting an ad blocking extension in your user's hands, so out of the box they have a protected browser, is going to stop a lot of the Mickey Mouse nonsense that leads to people downloading malicious ISOs or malware that they get redirected to through search result poisoning or ads that have malicious links in them, things like that. All of that gets stopped, or most of that, I should say, gets stopped with one of these extensions. And uBlock Origin is free and open source, right? So you can just put that into your user's hands. Yes, you might need to add some exceptions for your own internal sites so that they don't have critical content that gets blocked. That's also possible via group policy. So once you have that deployed, you will diminish a bunch of stuff. Not only will you diminish a bunch of low-level infections, but you will also diminish a ton of noise in your telemetry, right? Because you're no longer going to be seeing domain hits that have IOCs associated with them. You're no longer going to be seeing reports from your firewalls about this stuff, like threat feed stuff. All sorts of things are going to get diminished when you put this in place. So for my money, that is the easiest, most effective win that you can put in place to prevent a lot of attacks like Chrome Loader. Next up, this one really caught me by surprise. This came in yesterday. It turns out, and it's actually an older CVE based on the number, CVE 2022-3236, which I will put in the chat, is a CVSS score of 9.8, so just missing that 10, but it's a remote code execution vulnerability in Sophos firewall. I'll be honest, I didn't no, Sophos made a firewall, but it turns out they do, and it turns out that the web admin portal is susceptible to remote code execution. And this is being actively exploited. It seems as though this is primarily being exploited in South Asia, and I love that the response from the company was that the workaround, not even a patch. No, there is a patch. So the latest versions have been patched, but the workaround is to, where did I see this? Yes. As a workaround, Sophos is recommending that users take steps to ensure that the user portal and web admin are not exposed to the WAN, the wide area network. Which, yeah, don't do that. That is like Firewalls 101. Do not allow your admin portal, your web interface, to be accessible from the interwebs. That is a bad idea. That is a recipe for disaster. And we've seen the same thing with all of these products. SonicWall, Big Five. Oh, geez. I think Palo Alto had one at some point, right? Don't allow. I mean, yes, you have to concern yourself with the internal as well, but don't allow your external network to host your web interface. Don't do it. That one again is an easy win. That there are, I truly believe there are no excuses for. You can prevent that. But I also think that the product shouldn't have that as an option in the first place. Okay. Moving right along. This one was kind of interesting. So it turned out that once again, the Lockbit ransomware group, if you remember, their pedigree is that a lot of them came from the Conti ransomware group, who had their own disgruntled employees and had their own leaks. And now Lockbit has joined that club, where a disgruntled developer has leaked the builder code for the Lockbit 3.0 ransomware. What does this mean? It means that analysts can take a look at it and understand how it works and maybe develop new detections and new defenses against the ransomware as built. But it also means that less sophisticated operators can take this builder and create their own Lockbit-like ransomware to deploy. So I am a little concerned about this resulting in an increase in ransomware overall, because more people are going to have access to this kind of technology, and therefore more people are going to try to take advantage of it. I always like to believe in the best of people, but I do know that if you this is like Chekhov's ransomware builder, right? It's going to go off. Somebody is going to use this thing. So it is something to be aware of. So take a look at some of the reports and the analysis on it. I know that Huntress has done some good work on it. Of course, Hammond is tearing this thing apart, as he's wont to do. And there are lots of other research firms that are taking a look at it as well. So be aware that this is out there, and that you may, if your threat model is based about Lockbit-like ransomware is based around the targets that Lockbit has commonly gone after, you may want to modify that now, given the fact that Lockbit-like ransomware is in the hands of threat actors who may be targeting other sectors, other regions, all of that. Okay? That is something to think about with threat modeling, right? So if you have a threat actor that is like primarily targeting energy or primarily targeting education or whatever, and you're not in those sectors, you can say, okay, I need to worry less about those specific attacks if they are super unique to that threat actor, right? But now that's out the window because you don't know who's going to be using this tool. Okay, last thing is that, let me move my head just for a second. I want to take a moment, I did this last night as well, but I want to take a moment to talk about the protests in Iran, hashtag Iran Protests 2022, and how you can help. There are a lot of ways that you may be able to help, but an easy way for tech folks like us to help is to run a signal proxy. So we know that the regime in Iran is trying to shut down communications. The ISP is trying to lock everything down. And one of the ways that protesters have been communicating is using the end-to-end encrypted chat app Signal. Well, most of the main Signal servers have been blocked by the ISP. However, there are instructions from Signal on how to run your own Signal proxy that you can share. If you know people who are in Iran, you can share these proxies with them and they can use those to communicate with one another. I also last night did a quick stream on how to build your own in both AWS and Azure. And if you're interested in checking that out, just getting the link right here. If you're interested in checking that out, you can see it here. I'm giving you the YouTube link. The Twitch VOD is there as well. But check that out. It's about an hour of stream, and it's pretty tight and focused. And we go through how to set it up both in AWS and in Azure. And I will mention, just in case you're curious, the instructions from Signal are not entirely correct anymore. And the reason they're not entirely correct is because Docker has updated, right? They're using Docker Compose, but they're using Docker Compose in kind of an old school way. If you install Docker correctly now, their Docker Compose instructions are a little bit different. So check the video that I posted there for the details on how to get that running. And it's something small, but I already have received a couple of thank yous from folks in Iran for setting up these proxies. So it does mean something to do it. It's worth doing. And on AWS, you can do it for free. All right. With the news out of the way, we're going to get into our main material, and that's going to be some more Purple Team shenanigans. Hey, Redhead992. Glad you're here with us. So today we're going to do a little bit more red team, blue team stuff together, and the lab is set up. It's ready to go. I have a domain controller, I have a file server, and I have a workstation ready to rock. And the Elastic SOC is up and running. I have confirmed that data is coming in as I expected. So I'm pretty excited to see everything firing on all cylinders the way that it's supposed to. What we want to do today, there's a specific kind of GitHub repository that I'm playing with, and I want to see how it goes. And you know what? Let's just get into it, and we can play along together. Get some music going. Okay. So let me start by talking about the repo that I am using. I'm pretty excited by this. Is this your physical server you own? Yes, this is Starbase, our HP ProLiant DL380p Gen 8 that is hosting our lab environment. An investment that has paid for itself many times over. So the script that I'm using is from user WazeHell on GitHub, and I believe it's Sharp Buffer or something like that on Twitter. And they've created this script called vulnerable AD. And so what it does is create coverage of the mention. It basically creates a domain environment that has these vulnerabilities built in. So we have abuse ACLs, Kerberos roasting, AS-REP roasting, abuse DNS admins, password and object description, user objects with default passwords, password spraying, DC sync, silver tickets, golden tickets, pass the hash, pass the ticket, and SMB signing disabled. It's a smorgasbord. Now, full disclosure, I am not... Well, I'm not Husky Hacks. Some of you might be surprised to learn that, but I am not, in fact, he. And I know that he couldn't be with us here today. So I am not the most experienced Windows pen tester ever, right? So I'm still learning a lot. I'm going through the Rastamouse CRTO course right now. So I'm still learning about stuff like using Rubius and kind of the deep stuff with creating tokens and stealing tickets, things like that. So I'm going to do my best, right? And I'm sure there are folks in here who will be able to advise as we go, and I'm going to thank you in advance for some of that support. But we're going to play with this and see how it goes. Now, I will say that I've already run the script just so we could have some prep and really get into it. And I have to tell you, my process for this was really, really simple. So, as some of you may know, the lab is built entirely using a kind of triple threat of Packer to build my base images, Terraform to spin up my lab environments. So I used this. Let me fire up VS Code here. From Ansible, I think. Yeah. So I used Terraform to build my servers raw, okay? And then I used an Ansible playbook to create a domain controller and set up the Elastic agent and set up sysmon and all the stuff that I wanted to have it ready to go. And once I had my base lab set up, and that took, 25 minutes. Once that was done, all I had to do was run this script on the domain controller, and it was fast. It was like, it set things up 1, 2, 3, really no problem whatsoever. So if you have all you need, by the way, I should mention, you don't need to have 3 machines to make this work. You can do it with 2. So all you need is a domain controller and a workstation. I don't know why I blanked on that word. Yeah, all you need is a domain controller and a workstation, and you can run this script. So the setup of this has so far been really, really smooth. Very happy with that. In terms of our offensive and defensive setup, this was kind of the infrastructure setup. In terms of our offensive and defensive setup, what do we have? Offensive, we have our trusty Kali machine up here ready to go. And in fact, we'll be using Sliver as our C2 as usual. I'm going to try to use Rusty Needle as our dropper just to see if it works. If we have to turn off Defender because it's gotten clever about that, then it is what it is. We'll do that. Arbrins asks, do you have those infrastructure as code in your GitHub? You bet I do. I have an entire repo called SecLab that tracks the work that I'm doing to create this kind of spin-up work for specifically the Proxmox virtualization environment. So if you go there and go to the Proxmox, I think maybe it's in the main branch now, but definitely the Proxmox branch will have this material. Yes, indeed. But, right, so we're going to use Sliver as our C2. And I also have every intention of running Bloodhound in this environment. That's going to be kind of our first point of contact. But before we do that, we're going to go to payloads here and check out what our payloads are. So as I said, we're going to use my Rusty Needle dropper to get our Sliver payload onto the thing. And we're going to fudge it a little bit and kind of just use a user on the machine to get us on there just to see what that looks like. Defensive wise, what do we have set up? We have an Elastic stack. We have Elk, Logstash, and Kibana with the Elastic agent reporting in from all 3 of our lab machines. If we go to hosts, we should see, indeed we do, ZDFS01, that's the file server, which isn't doing anything right now, the workstation, and the domain controller. I am delighted to say that we finally also have the alerting working. Feels so good. Now, I don't know if I have the analyzer working. Oh, yeah, we do. Yes, 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 yes. Everything is working. So, delighted to see that happen. I don't know why. The last time we ran this, a bunch of data wasn't coming in from the endpoints, but now it is. And so we get to play with everything the way that it was intended. And in case you're wondering, this costs $0. Everything I am doing here is on the free tier for Elastic. It's beautiful. So all of the alerts are enabled. I'm excited to see what comes up with it. And of course, we have our raw Explorer if we want to do that as well. So a lot of this data is coming directly from the Elastic agent. It has its own representations of like process and registry events. But we also do have sysmon on these machines with the Swift on security sysmon config. So that's what we have going on for detection in the defensive aspect. So we're going to do both sides of this. All right. As always, this is a place to ask questions, so please do. No question, please, there is no such thing as a stupid question. I want to answer them for you, and so if you're curious about anything that's going on, please don't hesitate. I want to see those questions in the chat. That is how we learn together. All right, so we need to infect our first target. That's going to be our workstation, and I'm just going to remote in to our workstation as a user. That's not what I want to do. That's our domain controller. Where's my new connection? 0day.local. Maybe it wants a backslash for that. I can also just go through the Proxmox hypervisor if I need to. There we go. That's what we wanted. Good old Joe hack me. Thanks, Joe. How's everybody's week been? I'm feeling like a toddler bouncing back from a nap because the last 2 days I was completely floored by the COVID booster. That thing is no joke. Take your time, Joe. Ironically, I could do this a lot faster over SSH. But I do want this whole thing to get set up so we have an account to use. Let's see if we can see the login here. If we go to users in our security dashboard, there's JHackMe. So incredibly, we can in fact see this data coming in. It's really cool to see this happen in real time. The dream of the sock is alive. I'm still recovering from my 2-year-old's terrorist energy. I get that. Woof. I also like that it shows you the failures here, right? There we go. All right, we're logged in as JHackMe here. And switching over to the Kali box, I need to go to payloads and run, I think. I'm not running this anywhere else, am I? I am. Okay, so I'm running an HTTP server on port 8443, and I'm just going to grab fun.exe, and that is a dropper which will call back for note.txt. Those of you who have seen Rusty Needle, you know what's up, right? There's encoded shellcode here. It's gigantic, but it's going to come in, it's going to inject itself with the shellcode, and what we should get back here is a sliver session once all is said and done. So this is 10.199.114. So let's fire up Edge and get that going. Get out of here. Get out of here. Oh my god, Edge. I have to tell you, I think that Edge would have a much better adoption rate if it didn't do this crap at the start. Just if it would just open the browser, I would be much more willing to give it a shot. But when its first thing is like, give me your data, I'm like, no, I'm good, thanks. Yeah, man. What? You can't reach 10.1.99.114. Oh, dang it. You switched back to 113. Well, that's annoying. Okay. Last night it was 114. So, quick adjustment here because I'm going to have to change up. Yeah, I'm going to have to change up the source code for the dropper. Back to 113. And rebuild that. That shouldn't take long, and then we'll just copy that over to fun.exe. Back to the remote desktop session. Let's try 113. Hey, okay. Fun.exe. I will be a little surprised, honestly, because I actually updated this Windows machine last night, so I'll be a little surprised if this just lets me have this. Yeah, no, I trust it. Okay. So, for starters, we will do this as a low-privileged user. Joe Hackme actually does have admin privs on this machine, but for now, we'll start it regular style. So what's happening now is it's going... Oh, it's actually... There we go. Smart screen is happening, and then we'll hit run anyway. And now, if we go over to our C2 pane, notice that it's making the call in for note.txt. At which point, it's going to now download that thing, which is going to fail because I forgot to change up the C2. Back to 113 then. We'll rebuild this. Let me kill fun.exe because this isn't going to do anything. Vanny, thank you so much for the sub. Happy 6 months. All right, so this thing, Sliver's compiling its shellcode. It's pretty chunky. And then when we encode it, it becomes gigantic. Truly, truly large. Was it default Rusty Needle that you expected to get caught? Yes, it was. Which it didn't. Now, catching Rusty Needle is a little bit tricky, much like catching Offensive Notion, because we use a library to encrypt all the strings. And I think that a lot of the signatures that Defender has for both of them, because I know they have them, have to do with some of like an older encryption key that they signature the encrypted strings, which, okay. That's a choice. Don't even need Chrome Loader. So this would be like a way to start. Yeah, I love Chrome extension shenanigans. I really do. because unless you know what you're looking for, it's so easy to miss. And it's so... The thing... I think I've said this before, but... And I've written about this, but the thing that is so cool about browser compromises like malicious Chrome extensions is that it completely uses single sign-on against you. Okay? Like, say you're in an environment that uses, you know, ADFS or like some version, Google Workspace, whatever it is, and that as your single sign-on solution, right? And that's everywhere. Okay, well, if I get onto a system and I don't necessarily have your password, even if I have a C2 agent, right? I don't necessarily have your password. Maybe you're not an admin and I don't have admin creds to elevate to start looking at secrets that have credentials in them. Okay, so I might be a little stuck. But as soon as I get into your browser and you're using SSO, you're using the same credentials for web assets that you use to log onto your machine, you're mine, right? So it turns that idea of single sign-on being a consolidation of your security concerns, it really uses that against its original intention. I think about that all the time, right? Like, if the browser becomes our primary attack space and we're using that for our local as well, that is, I think, I don't know what it is, but it's a use case that I don't think we thought about clearly when single sign-on became the way that we do things. All right, our new implant has been built. Let's try that again. So what we've done is we've recreated the note.txt. And so actually we can just rerun the same fun. This will still work. But now it will generate the right shellcode, right? Because I changed it to the right IP address. There it is. That didn't take long at all. All right, so we have a session. Use 140. Okay. So I'm logged in, plainly. Very cool. Now, in terms of compromise, what are some things that we can try to do? Again, Defender is up and running, and I would be... Nothing so far, though. And keep in mind, Rusty Needle was never intended for proper red team operations. It is a teaching tool. No current threats. Self-injected, but no current threats. I'll tell you when this thing is going to get got, though. The instant we execute create remote thread, it's going to get burned. So we have to be aware of that. Now, in terms of things that we want to do from here, we know that we are an admin, but we know that we don't have an admin token. So let's go back to Sliver here. If I do get privs, right, I get a whole list of things here. Now, if I do something silly like shell who am I /groups, is it not shell? Oh. It's just shell. This is bad OPSEC. Are you an adult? I am an adult. I know what I'm doing. Okay. Now, this is a PowerShell, right? So actually right now, we should be able to see something in the SOC about this. Like, what just happened? Let's head over to our alerts and see if anything popped. We have plenty of information here. Connection to commonly abused web services. Enumeration of privileged local groups membership. All sorts of good stuff here. Now, this was at 10:35, so this is actually pretty dated. We're not seeing anything yet. The rules may not have processed yet. Let's see what happens once I run whoami/groups on this thing. So again, red teamers, don't do this. Blue teamers, if you're not watching for this, I don't know what you're doing. Now, that being said, there's a lot of stuff that does this for no reason all the time. My personal favorite is... let's head over to good old WTF bins. Yeah. The Palo Alto Global Protect HIP executable will run whoami constantly. And so when you're doing a threat hunt on a VPN system that uses Palo Alto, right? It's a nightmare because most of the stuff that you're looking at for cmd.exe, you're going to be like, whoami.groups or whoami/groups as system, what's happening? But all of it is this. But they're individual PIDs, so like it just makes noise. It's such a pain. Anyway, anything? Well, now I'm mad. That should have caught something. Maybe it just takes us a minute or two to process the rules. We do have a bunch of rules enabled. Nevertheless, if we go over to Discover, and I'm looking at the endpoint events process. So this is the raw elastic. I'm not even looking at Sysmon right now. And look for who am I? And who am I? Okay, let's see. Let's do host.name. Let's add that as a filter. So our workstation, not much else is making noise. Nevertheless, and we're going to say event.command line. We just want to make sure that the event.command line exists, right? Because there's some of this stuff. Whoa. Can you filter by CMD? It's a little bit trickier to do that. All right. I'm just going to look for all PowerShell. What is happening? Wait, I'm in the wrong dang. No, it should just be in logs. Maybe it's in alerts. Nope. Interesting. Do I have PowerShell logging enabled? Arborins, I don't need it because I have Sysmon enabled and also Elastic. So I don't need to have... See, look, I'm getting it from Sysmon here. Perfect. Here we go. This is it. This is the stuff that I want to see. All right, so we are seeing the events take place. So if I look for who am I, yeah, I actually prefer to have the sysmon logging instead of PowerShell, and I'll tell you why. The PowerShell logging is crazy noisy. All right, there it is. Who am I / groups. You can see that the PowerShell data is much more detailed than the Elastic, which is why I enable it, right? So process.command line, there's who am I / groups. Then we can look at the parent ID, all that other stuff. Very cool. I'm still concerned that we're not alerting on that. So, right, let me explain why I don't like PowerShell script block logging as opposed to, this is observability, why I don't like PowerShell script block logging compared to sysmon. The PowerShell script block logging is gigantic, and it reproduces the entirety of the PowerShell script that gets run. Now, if you are in a restricted environment that has EPS, events per second limits, or storage limits on your logging, you're going to destroy it with PowerShell logs. You just are, especially if you have a lot of administration via PowerShell using SCCM or something like that. All of that is going to get caught in the PowerShell logs, and there's a maximum size. So here's the thing about Windows event logs. Windows event logs have a set maximum size. I can't remember off the top of my head whatever it is, but like they have a maximum size, and then so subtract all the rest of the stuff that's in any given Windows event log event, and then that's the remainder for what can be the PowerShell script block. And so if you have a big PowerShell script, it's going to blow through that, and it creates multiple events per script execution. And so it's not like, so if you have a long PowerShell script, it's not like one event per run. It can be 30 per run if it's giant. And SCCM ones tend to be. So be aware of that. Whereas with sysmon, you get the process execution, you get the command line. Do you get the entirety of the PowerShell script? No, you don't, but you can go grab that with other tools, right? So I feel like as a trade-off between visibility and like availability, I feel like the sysmon logs are a way better option. Oh, hey, look, hey, they came in. Oh, that's so good. Look at this, process event with who am I, parent process PowerShell.exe that actually caught it. Look at this. So, again, I just had to enable these rules, right? I didn't have to create any custom stuff. I just had to enable the stuff out of the box, and it caught it. This is, again, where, you know, most of the time when there's an incident, what is said is that, oh yeah, there were alerts about this stuff, just nobody noticed it. Notice your stuff. This says severity low, and I guess, but if I see a who am I / groups, and if I know my environment well enough to know that my user isn't technical, it doesn't have any reason to be running this, I'm going to poke on that a little bit more just to see what's going on. Windows event log max size is 20 megs. That is not what I'm talking about, Pugmeister, and I'm talking about a specific Windows event. Let's look it up so we know, because there is an answer to that. Windows event log item max size. It's smaller. 512 kilobytes is the default. Or no, that's the event log size. No. No, there it is. 31885. 31,800, or put another way, 32 KB, I think, is basically what it is. Yeah, 32 KB. So anything larger than 32 KB is going to basically get tossed into a second one. And don't forget, it's 32 KB minus the space that all of the rest of the data in a Windows event log takes up. Okay, then those are the bytes that you have left over. It's not much. I see. When I did the math, it was like, it was small. It was like, So 32 KB. I want to say it was like almost like 1 KB that you have left after everything else. The message is not the bulk of an EVTX like event item. Okay, so we caught Who Am I? Let's do some stuff. Now, obviously I'm going to fudge this a little bit, but we will try a UAC bypass. I don't think we're going to get there. But we do have the ability to do that in Sliver, so let's give that a shot. Ugh. Sliver. Sessions. Use 1/4. There we go. Now, if we go to help again, you can see all the stuff that we can do, including port forward or proc dump. I can't proc dump LSAS right now because I don't have the permissions to do so. But one of my favorite things that I can do is execute assembly. And that's exactly what I want to do. I want to execute assembly. What do I want to execute? I want to execute. Now I'm done with payloads. Gonna get out of here. CD scripts, sharp collection, framework any. So these are .NET assemblies that I can inject into our Sliver session, and it will then jump and create a remote thread. Now, I am pretty sure this is where we're going to get burned, and I'll tell you why. For one thing, in order to do this, it does a fork and run. So it creates a remote thread, and Defender hates a create remote thread. It just does. So that's like the first thing that I'm going to expect us to get burned on. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That's great. But I have a feeling it will. Now, one of our tools here is Sharp Bypass UAC. The other thing I want us to pay attention to for the attackers is we do help execute assembly. There are some things to know, and we learned this last time, right? That by default, the process that it will launch is notepad.exe, which is an easy find. So the first thing you may want to do is take a look at what else is running with PS and just see what you could maybe touch. Anything that has an owner listed, maybe up for grabs. I wouldn't do Explorer if I were you. But I might do MS Edge. Okay. So Sharp UAC, Sharp Bypass UAC is pretty cool. We're going to take a look at what its options are before we run it, just so we understand what our capabilities will be. What we're trying to do, by the way, for those of you who aren't familiar, this user has local admin on it, okay? And so it has local admin, but our session does not have the administrative token. It's not running as administrator, okay? So there are a lot of things that we cannot do because we don't have that admin token. And one of them is like Elevate to start enumerating the system for credentials. That's something that we want to be able to do. Can't quite do that just yet. We could do some other like SMB stuff, but we want to see what we can do here. In order to do this, we have to bypass user account control. User account control is that thing where if you try to run something, sometimes it'll say, do you want to run this as administrator? You say yes or no, or you enter an admin's password. That is user account control. It was introduced in Windows Vista, drove a lot of people crazy. It really improved the Windows security model. What UAC does is say, okay, you have the ability, you have the permission to get an admin token. So for this process, I'm going to give it to you. And then the process ends, goes away. So it's not like your entire session is running as admin, just that process. So our options are a good old bot helper, and then the encoded command to run, right? Oh, encodes, good to see you. And I should say, Imran, thank you so much for the follow. And 0x715C, thank you for the follow. So, the encoded command, right? What is the encoded command that we're going to run? To be executed at high integrity. The command is base64 encoded to be easily used. So, we're going to base64 the encode the command, but watch this. I think if we... Oh, it is just straight up base64 encoded. Never mind, that's way easier. I thought we were going to have to do the Windows encoding into UTF-16 trick, but no. Much easier. Well then, what our command is going to be is cmd c start Nope, I still need the escape. Echo cmd start users jhackme downloads fun.exe. Send that to base64. That's going to be our encoded command. So we are going to do the following. We're going to execute assembly, give it the path, and remember that it is sharp bypass uac.exe. And then we're also going to if we remember our help here. Hate handles with the raid. Welcome, raiders. Good to see you. We're going to run it in the current sliver process, if we can, so that we're not doing that fork and getting caught. We'll try running in MS Edge first. We may kill the process, but we'll try. So -P and then -A for the process arguments. So it goes like this. Execute assembly. Hate handles, how is your stream? P msedge.exe. And here, I think I could just put the arguments after as well. So we'll do -C sharp bypass UAC. Let's see how, we have to choose a method as well, a UAC method. So there's FOD helper or event viewer. So -B event viewer. We'll do SLUI. See how that goes. So B SLUI, and then the encoded command is right here. Can I give it a PID? 23464. No. Okay, so we need to have a whole path, seems like. Well, that's fine. Let me just go find what the path to edge is here. It's like, what? C. Program files. Microsoft Edge. Application. msedge.exe. You like that PowerShell prompt? I'm very happy with it. There we go. Will it get killed? Yes. It will. Oh my. Look at all the things that just happened. It's freaking out. Tay, thank you so much for the follow. Now, if we look at what happened here, this was the UAC bypass, right? However, notice that so far as, let's look at Bearfoos. Okay, so it did find fun.exe. I'll bet you anything it's no longer in downloads. How has this not been quarantined? Weird. It should have been. Let's take a look at what the sock saw. Let's go to our alerts. Again, it might take a minute for any of this to show up. Yeah, we'll have to give it a couple minutes for this to actually happen. So that was gnarly. I'm curious, though. Did we lose our sliver session? Yes, we did. That seems about right. Oh, snap! WazeHell! Thank you so much for hanging out. Welcome, and thank you for the follow. Big thank you for the vulnerable AD script. It's working great. We're just getting started playing around with it. But it is absolutely phenomenal. Since you're here, let's accelerate this. So obviously Defender caught our dropper once we started doing stuff that was known, like UAC bypasses, right? But just laying in the cut on the system, it didn't catch us. Now, could we have done some other things that might have been a little bit more sneaky? Maybe. Frankly, UAC bypasses are funny because they don't get fixed, but they get caught constantly, right? I know I have a lot of red team friends that are like, oh yeah, just use, FOD helper or use other UAC bypasses. You're going to get burned more often than you think with them in semi-mature environments, right? If they have Defender turned off or they have they don't have any of that kind of modern tooling. Okay, that's not the environment we're talking about here. We're talking about a quasi well-equipped environment. So you're going to get caught with UAC bypasses. Therefore, we're going to kind of move this along just a moment to running this thing as an administrator to show you what that looks like. Okay. There goes fun.exe, right? And one of the things I should have done is turn off automatic sample submission. Ugh, gross. Okay. Leave RTP on, of course. Let's go get fun.exe again. Oh, I turned off the HTTP server. Let's turn that back on. Thank ya. Defender's like, no. Never again. Yeah. It was like, no, you're done. All right. So we've demonstrated that Defender can do its job against this. That's not the point of this exercise, though, right? Because it could be any malware. It doesn't have to be Rusty Needle as the dropper. It could be something that this doesn't know about. Okay. So we're going to go back. We're going to fire this off. And we're going to run this as an administrator this time. So again, and by the way, keep in mind, I feel like there's going to be some folks here who are like, oh man, Defender caught it. That's good. That is good news. Our goal is to increase defense. We want things to get caught. I know that that's, my bias is primarily as a defender, and I truly believe that the red team should be in the service of defense. If you're just doing it to win, you're screwing up. So it is good news that our defenses are working, right? Does it frustrate the red team? Yeah, they should be frustrated. That's the deal. All right, so now we have a new session coming in from Sliver. Okay. Get prives. Get privs. Thank you. I should have an admin token though for this because I ran it as administrator. It says disabled. Oh, but right up here it says process integrity level high. So I have the admin token. I can do cool stuff now, like get system. And there it is. I'll explain this again for folks who are not as familiar. So what get system is doing is it is looking at a process, in this case winlogon.exe, I believe, that has the system session token. It is opening that process, duplicating that token, creating a new thread that impersonates a user, in this case system, using that token in its impersonation slot. So that's kind of how we get system, right? And that's why this session here is working that way. So if we use E47, now I'm system. Okay? Draco, thank you so much for the follow. Okay, now that I am system, I can do some kind of cool stuff with execute assembly. right? We're gonna use net framework any. Actually, I need sharp collection as well. And we're gonna use sharp cats. Right here. And sharp cats command, I think we want, hold on. I always forget these. I should probably just have these bookmarked at this point, because they don't follow Mimikat's. Yeah. E-keys. So we'll try Credman. We'll try logon passwords. We'll try all that. Oh, right. We're going to get rid of MS Edge. Yes, it's going to run as Notepad. At the moment, I don't care, because the point is to get to the fun stuff with the script. Okay. Not a whole lot there. All right. Now let's see if we got anything for this machine account. Well, we certainly have an NTLM hash. With which we could do some fun stuff. I will also make mention that in this particular case, the password is super weak, right? It is fall 2022 with an exclamation point. So a simple crack will get us that password. So some place to start, okay? I don't want to go through the password cracking process, but obviously we're getting some good stuff from sharp cats here. In terms of detections, the SOC is running a little behind, right? Because it's processing alerts. It's taking a little bit of time. It doesn't happen instantaneously. My time range being weird? No, it's just 2 now. Okay, we've got another who am I. There says unusual parent process, CMD process, SLUI by JHackMe. So we actually saw this one. Look at this. Tracked as unusual parent process for CMD.exe. This is a great detection, right? And then I'm going to do my favorite thing with this ever. This analyze event. I'm in love with this view. Look at this. If you haven't played with this, it's the coolest thing. So it shows you the entire execution tree. And it'll even show you registry changes. I don't use this in my day job, and I'm going to tell you I wish I did. Look at this. So, explorer.exe, right to fun.exe. Nothing by. Thank you for the follow. Get MS Edge. SLUI. Let's look at fun.exe. Right, so it shows us all that. We even get the hash if we want to go deal with that. Okay. If we want to see the library stuff, it's a little bit more in depth. Now, this will not show us, I believe, sysmon data. For that, we're going to have to go cross-reference it with like process IDs or executable names, right? And then what can that tell us? That can tell us like image loads if it were DLLs, things like that. But plainly, right, there's some shenanigans here. The process args are right here. C start, C users, jhackmefun.exe. And then all of this was myrtleized by Defender. Absolutely incredible. Now, if I'm concerned about this, which I should be, as a Defender, what can I do? I can take a look, I can check this thing, and with this alert, I can create a new case and actually work the thing, right? This is the job. I also technically have the ability to run OS query commands with the Elastic Agent, which is pretty OP if you ask me. If you know OS query, that's some cool stuff that you can do. All right. So we have this password, right? And the whole thing is we've set up this vulnerable AD environment with WazeHell scripts. What do we do with it? Let's say we've gotten now to a password that we can use to start connecting to the environment and doing some stuff. Well, the first thing I might want to do is run Bloodhound. Maybe I do it in a stealthier way, but I want to run Bloodhound. Now, a couple ways I can do this. One way is I can execute it directly from my compromised endpoint with sharphound. You can do that. Another slightly more advanced way, and this is something that try hack me networks like Wreath will teach you, and something that I know that Al Hazred is going to be insistent on, and I believe that Husky will, both professional red teamers, is if you can run it over a proxy, do it, right? So do port forwarding, things like that. So in our case, we could port forward any requests on 389 through our proxy out through our compromised endpoint. So that is something we can do in Sliver if we were using LDAP. Just be aware of that. A little proxy chains action. Right, because we have a port forward option here. Where we bind the port forward to interface, right? And then the remote. Okay. We have no pivot listeners on this one. Okay. And we also have an in-band SOX 5 proxy, actually, which can help us out a lot. Okay. But again, for ease of use, we're going to stick with Bloodhound here. So Bloodhound, if we want to run it on the network, and we don't want to... If we have a presence on the network and we don't want to run sharphound, what can we do? Well, my preference is to use Bloodhound PY. How do we do that? So it's a little bit tricky, especially because now there are some weird Python versioning issues. So there are two parts of this that I want to talk about for Bloodhound. There is, of course, the Bloodhound basic script. This is the user interface for Bloodhound. That is the last thing that you're going to open. The other tool that you're going to need is Bloodhound py. Okay? And this is the Python collector that makes the same LDAP requests that Sharphound does. Now, this thing has some weird requirements when it comes to library versions in Python. Because of course it does, because Python does. So, the best solution that I have found to get this to run successfully is to run from a Docker file. So I have already built this Docker container, but if you wanted to do the same thing, what you would do is run sudo docker image build -t bloodhound.py, or call it whatever you want. Once it's built, sudo docker image ls, you'll see that I have a bloodhound.py image, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to run it. If you see, they want you to run it just like this. Sudo docker run, and then with a volume mount of the working directory to the Bloodhound data, and then interactive with the terminal, and call it whatever you want. So it's actually exactly what we're going to do. We're going to do sudo docker container run, because I'm using the proper new version of the syntax, not the shortcuts. Volume, we're going to mount pwd. Don't worry that I'm not using a $sign. This is because I'm using a fish, not bash. /bloodhound data. That's fine. You can call it whatever you want, actually. IT, and then bloodhound .py. Okay, I am now inside the Docker container. How do we run this thing? So there's Bloodhound Python. If we run -h for it, you can get an idea of what you want to do. So bloodhound.python, the username is going to be jhackme. The password in this case is going to be fall 2022. The collection method, this is actually super important. Oh, also the domain is going to be zeroday.local. And we're also going to give it the name server 10.1.99.3, because I don't think this thing knows about that out of the box, but it might. Nevertheless, that'll just help. Now, collection method. If we want sessions, you're going to do all. Right? Local admin, session, trust, default, all previous. So that's the default, which is fine. Logged on, object props, ACL, all except log on. Game.l or game.data, I have no idea. But it said, what is the benefit of running Bloodhound in Docker compared to not in a Docker container? The benefit is that bloodhound.py, the Python dependencies, have gotten weird. And the version of Python that you may have installed in your machine may not match what's expected there. So the Docker container has all the right versions of everything that you need, so you're not going to run into those errors. So I'm just going to run collection all, hope that it doesn't take too long. I only made 50 users, so. All right, it connected. We're querying. Awesome. That was easy. Right, found 57 users, found 60 groups, found 0 trusts. Okay. Notice now that I have a bunch of data in my computer's, my vulnerable AD folder, these JSON. I have now run Bloodhound successfully. I can exit out of this. Done deal. I'm going to head over to Bloodhound here. Actual Bloodhound, not bloodhound.py. I did it again. Every time. I downloaded the wrong thing. I downloaded the source code as opposed to the release, which is what I actually want to do. Right. So go get your, in this case, Linux x64. Come on. All right, down that comes. Downloads, unzip, Bloodhound. Okay. Bloodhound. Cute. Okay. Now. Oh, good. Case sensitive. That's what you want. Let's just fire this thing up. I already have the Neo4j database running. So this should start right up. No troubles. We're going to turn dark mode on. You're welcome. And then we're going to upload data from vulnerable AD. All this. Good. Computers, domains, groups, users. Let's go. Now, do we think that the enumeration of this information resulted in any alerts in the SOC? Based on the data that we have coming in, I'm not optimistic that it would have. And the reason is we don't have the network telemetry coming in just yet. Right? We're purely running off of endpoint data right now. Although, notice that we have these unusual principal or child processes, right? This was definitely our execute assembly sharpcat stuff. The unusual principler right here absolutely was all of our execute assemblies as system. So it definitely was picking that up. I also believe that if we had enriched this a little bit more, if we had process access enabled with sysmon, that's a tough thing to do, but if we had that enabled, we'd also be able to pick up the access to LSAS with the sysmon logs. By the way, I should say this. In threat hunting training and lots of writing, I feel like it's almost a foregone conclusion that, of course, you're just going to have sysmon logging enabled in your environment. It turns out, as incident responders will tell you, it turns out that's not true. Most places don't have it enabled, and I feel like that should be called out. That when you're going through this training, if you're going through threat hunting training, or even red team training and thinking about sysmon as an adversary, it ain't always there. And it's growing in prevalence, that's great. But in threat hunting, sysmon's job is to be a stand-in for commercial endpoint detection and response products. You can't usually put those in lab training scenarios, so they use sysmon instead. The same kinds of data, maybe not to the same degree of enrichment, but the same kinds of data should be coming from those endpoint detection and response tools. So whatever your EDR agent is, those should be telling you about process executions, registry writes, file reads, image loads, things like that. That's what should be doing that. And that's where the data comes from. So it's the same kind of data, but just be aware that sysmon won't always be there. In fact, I would say the minority of times it will actually be present. Okay, one last refresh just in case anything came in. I don't think so. Okay, our data has been uploaded. Let's run some basic analyses here. I always like Kerberoasting, so let's list all Kerberoastable accounts. There's just one. KRB TGT 0 day not local. Interesting. I'd be shocked if this is in fact Kerberoastable, but God, if it is, okay. So what else do we have? Let's find AS-REP roastable users. Ah, there's an AS-REP roastable user. That's cool. Furio has resubscribed. Thank you so much for 6 months of subscription. Really appreciate that. Abigail Henka. Really interesting. All right, Abigail. What's your deal? Let's look at your first degree group memberships. Who are you? Project management, office admin, domain users. Okay, office admin. You're interesting. Project management. Okay. So the only Kerberoastable account is KRB TGT. If that is true, let's see what we can pull with get user SPNs. Get user SPNs, 0day.local, jhackme. This is all still correct. The output is going to be marshmallows.txt. Yeah, I agreed. KRB TGT can sometimes be cracked, but I've never seen it. I would be shocked if that's real, but hey, we'll run it. Okay, so we're going to run this get user SPNs. We're getting all the service principal names that are available. Fall 2022. No entries found. Yeah, I didn't think so. But AS-REP roasting is interesting. Abigail Henka. So I'm going to have to remember how to do this one. I'm literally checking my CRT notes. AS-REP roasting. Is it that easy? So we're going to use Rubius, and Rubius has an AS-REP roast command. Yep. Yeah. All right. That looks okay. And then we'll get the... Yeah, okay, so then we'll get the ticket. Now, here's a question, because I actually don't know, and I should. Does Sliver not have a make... Oh, there it is. I was like... So Sliver does have a make token. So all the stuff that you know, you learn in CRTO with Cobalt Strike, you can in fact do most of it with Sliver. Okay. That's handy. So the reason we want to do this is, and if I get this wrong, please somebody correct me, because I'm totally new at this part. Okay. So these are accounts that don't require Kerberos pre-authentication. That's what AS-REP is all about. But what we're going to do is we're going to use Rubius to request the TGT, right? We're going to make a token as a fake logon session and then assign the token to assign the ticket to that new login session so we don't clobber our original logon session stuff. Oreo Bite, thank you so much for 10 months of subscription. Start a WireGuard listener. Well, that's cool. Every time I look at the Sliver commands, I find a new thing. It's like, this is rad as hell. Yeah, so, Oreo Bite, we are purple teaming today. So we are running Sliver attacks against WazeHell's vulnerable AD. And actually, I think I've been remiss in linking that thing. So let me fix that right now. It is so cool. There are a bunch of scripts out there that will try to come up with a vulnerable AD environment, but this was by far the easiest one I've ever seen. It definitely just works. All you have to do is, if you've already created a domain, don't do this part. If you have, do it in PowerShell, and then after that, invoke the expression to get the module, and then invoke vulnAD, set the user's limit, whatever you want, and then domain name of whatever the domain that you want. I did 0day.local. Very, very cool. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to execute assembly. Because this just has Rubius in it, doesn't it? Yeah, there you are. Lockbit, thank you for the follow. Are you running Windows inside a VM? I am running Windows in the lab. So, in another room, there is a enterprise server, an HP ProLiant DL380p, spinning away as our virtualization lab. This is running Proxmox. It looks like this. 64 gigs of RAM, dual core, 2-socket Xeon, 40 vCPUs. It's not crazy, but it does great for stuff like this. Well worth the investment. All right, so Rubius, right? So we're gonna do AS-REP. No, yes, AS-REP roast. User. Who is our user from Bloodhound? Abigail. That is the weirdest spelling of Abigail I have ever seen. Abigail.henka. And I think, let me see here. No wrap? And we'll do format KRB5 no wrap. And then format equals... Can I do this like this? KRB5 AS-REP? It should give you a KRB5 by default. Okay, good to know. Okay, so we have ourselves a ticket here. We have an AS-REP hash is what we have. So now, it's not a ticket would be base64 encoded. So this is an AS-REP hash. This is the roasting that we can do, right? So from here, we're gonna... Right, this is the actual password. Documents, vulnerable AD. Now we're going to vim abigail.hash and paste that in. Phenomenal. Sorry about the pointer. Okay, then we're going to do hashcat help rep, because I always forget which one it is, but we're gonna... Seriously? AT200. I don't like having to search for this stuff. iRed team is going to have us covered. Yep. 18200. I think we got the 23, did we not? No, we didn't. So is that still a thing? We need to insert 23 after the KRB5 AS-REP, like so. $23 spot. And then we can crack it. Okay. That's an important step. Okay. And then we can do hashcat right. A3. Okay. 3. 18200. Abigail.hash, and then Ripseckless. No. Where do I have this thing? It's just in user share. Ah, shame on me for not having done this already. 1 second. I don't know. Cool. I see you struggle with the little things. Okay. Seeing the struggle is important. I think that's true. I always try to keep a 90-10 balance on it, though, and I don't like it when it kind of moves out of that ratio in terms of struggle to actually doing stuff, because I'm a teacher, right? I have a lesson plan that I want to get through, and it matters to me that most of it is content. We'll call out the stuff that could go wrong for sure, but this is not the same as some other InfoSec streams that you may frequent for that reason. I'm not here to get frustrated live for entertainment. I'm here to convey knowledge first and foremost, and I have a lot of experience and training in how to do that well. And so, that's what we're doing. Huh. Why did we do this as an A3 rather than A0? This is weird. I'm not sure I wanted to do... They said A3, but I think I want to do A0. Okay. AS-REP roasting is taking place. Other stuff we can look for. Yeah, 3 is mass. That's what I thought too. Which we don't have, so it shouldn't matter. Okay, other stuff. First of all, let's just look for... Okay, this is interesting. So we have IT admins. This is interesting. IT admins. Let's, I like searching for groups in here, so let's see. Let's look at our direct members. We have Erica Arena, we have Darla Connie, we have Magdin, and we have Joe Hackme, by the way. So one of the things we can do is mark this user as owned, and then analysis we can try is... Could you tap control to always use labels? Yes, I have done so. Good tip. Thank you. Okay, so now that's owned, and so we're going to try shortest path to domain admin, shortest path to domain admin from owned principals. There may not be one. Okay. Oh, dang, we cracked it. Abigail Henkel is now owned. Or Abigail Henka, I should say. So Marka is owned. How about now? Still nothing, but we now have this capability. And to demonstrate it, I actually have SSH enabled across this environment, so easy enough to demonstrate this. But we'll do it with Sliver, right? Yeah. We will make token. The username is going to be Abigail Abigail.hinka. And the password is love. The domain is zeroday.local. The stream is very soothing. It's the music. It's pretty chill today. So we've impersonated Abigail.hinka. What can we do with that? It depends on what that user's permissions are. Very little, it seems. Yeah. Abigail is not a local admin anywhere. No derivative local admin rights. So, member of office admin is interesting, though. It's nothing crazy just yet. Yeah, it's not going to do anything. But we did actually AS-REP roast the user. So just to demonstrate the use of the thing, we'll rev to self in sliver. But another thing we could do is from this attack machine, we could do SSH. Do I need the domain? I think that I do. zeroday.local. Abigail.hinka at let's say 10.1.99. What is the workstation's IP address? Wanna wait. Love. We're in. So, plainly, we've taken over that user. Pretty cool, right? Now, I don't believe that user had any particularly spicy privileges. But Bloodhound is cool, right? If we look for shortest path to domain admin, just raw, like, what does that look like? Okay, from administrator, no kidding. Enterprise admins at zeroday.local. Who are you? Who is in enterprise admins? Denied RODC password replication group. Interesting. Let's unrolled. Or no, I want direct members. That's what I want. Just me. Oh, okay. So, the script didn't add that. These seem like maybe one-offs rather than pivot opportunities. I could be wrong about that. So far, though, we've done so. AS-REP roasting. Now, One of the other techniques I know that there was in there was password in object description, which I suck at raw queries in Bloodhound. I am not good at this. So I'm going to kind of show you another way to shave that yak. If I look at users.json, right? Definitely going to need JQ for this. Or will I? Actually, I'll do this in Bloodhound. The Bloodhound folder. If we look at users.json, I could just open this up. This is a hot mess, right? If I pipe it through JQ, now I get, like, readable data. And just take a look at... Let's see. How is it structured? So we want the data, okay, array. So the first thing is we're going to do JQ data. Right, so now we have an array, which is nice. And then I can even ask for the index of the thing. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to see, right, all of the properties that it has. And so I need something that has a name, basically, or a description. And descriptions are what I really want. So, yes, we can write an elaborate JQ query, but let's work smarter than harder. Let's work smarter, not harder, because JQ queries are funky, and we have other tools to do this. So we're going to get the data, and we're going to pipe that just to, like, user data.json. And in fact, I'm going to use JQ-R for raw, so it doesn't add color codes to it. Okay, let's vim user data.json. Okay, nice and clean. Now, here's how we can maybe look for any description that has a password in it. Ready? We're going to search for description, quote, colon, and then we're going to search for any number of characters, and then password. Okay, let me try that again. Description, quote, colon. Just make sure that part works. Sure does. So now we're looking for, quote, say also still works. Nope, password not there. So, unfortunately, we might have to do this with JQ. Another thing we can try is data, and then select. Here we go. God, JQ is so funny because I use it all the time, and it's just the worst syntax for anything ever. Right. So what we're going to do is select where dot description not equal null. Let's take a look at what we have there. Great. Cannot index array. Oh. So that actually worked. We just didn't find anything. I mean, let's see what we have just in general. Without doing a select, just look at every description. Data? Like so? There we go. Almost all of these are going to be empty, though. Oh! Ah! Taggart. Doofus. There you go. It's properties.description. Let's try that. So this is kind of tricky, but what I'm doing is actually, I want the colors now. I'm selecting data, and then I'm sending it to, yeah, there we go. So I'm sending it to an array, and then, actually, I might not need that step. If I don't, I'd be very happy. Oh, nope, I do. I do need that step. So I'm getting data, and I'm sending it as an array, and then I'm selecting everything where inside properties.description is not equal null. So that's what I'm doing. And then what I can do further, if I want to, is I can do the object name. Yeah, properties.name and then properties.description. So I'm going to do properties.name. Hey, Angel. And then dot properties dot description. Is it capital N for name? No, it is not. Come on. Okay, there we go. Welcome to an impromptu JQ masterclass. Except not. So this works. So this gives us everything that has a description. And the reason we might want those needs a dot property. Oh, you're right. Dot name, dot description. Thanks, Angel. Angel knows everything. Oh, no, it doesn't. No. You can also concat the... I don't know what that means, Angel. You're going to have to simplify that for me. But let's see what we have so far. Replication account. Shared user. Oh, hello. We found a user password. For Jackanetta Meredith. So, let's see what Miss Meredith can do. If anything. Why would you do fuzzy matching, Bloodhound? Let's mark this as owned, but let's also see... Oh, snap! First degree local admin. Where are you local admin? You're local admin on a domain controller. Amazing. So, we actually do have some pivoting opportunities here, right? So now, in our sliver token, right, we can do one of these. Let's make token. What was it? Jackanetta Meredith. And the password is... No! Okay. The password is... Oh, yeah. Okay, so now... Oh, that's right. It's the first one. The first slashes are wrong. I was like, why aren't they matching? Oh, I love Sliver Angel. I'm a huge fan. Don't particularly want to run PS exec or anything. But run an SSH command on a remote host. Built to cloud will use SSH to connect to the remote host. So let's SSH to ZDDC01. Login is going to be Jackanetta Meredith. Password is going to be that thing. And we will run. This will be really funny. What are you talking about? Oh, capital P. I was like, I definitely did. Does Sliver work as Cobalt Strike as it handles all your sockets between host pivots? Yes, it does. Well, right now it's being a bit of a pain. All right. We'll try PSXX just to see if it works. This action is bad OPSEC. Are you an adult? Yes. Profile to use. Jacquinetta. Oh, the profile is yeah. The profile is SecLab MTLS. That's ordering, right? So psexec-p SecLab MTLS. Yes. There we go. Let's go check out the sock, see how we're doing. Is it losing its mind at anything just yet? Yes, Husky did put out a new box on Try Hack Me called Takedown, and it is rated as insane, and you should check it out. It earns. I had some I don't know how to solve the box, but I was kind of checking in with him during the development. It is wild, the stuff that you're going to have to do. Well, we have a suspicious process. Let's look at this. Did you modify Sliver to bypass security without having to run it? No, and as a matter of fact, the second you start doing create remote thread stuff, Defender's going to get you, Oreo Bite. Right? Suspicious Process by Abigail Henka. So this is exactly what we saw happen. Yeah, that's really suspicious. And then what else do we have? Let's analyze this event. Again, this analyzer is so good. All right, this was the SSHD one, so that was actually kind of working. Did I get a Sliver session? Ooh, no. So even though Abigail Henka, or sorry, Jacquinetta. Oh, it's this current token NT Authority system. But didn't I make the token? I definitely did. Can system not impersonate like that? Can you get that process tree as defender for a better view? Angel, I'm not sure what you mean by process tree as defender. I'm not... This is elastic. It's not defender for endpoint. So... Okay. Like this. This is the view that I have. You know what I mean? Like, this is the analyzer that it shows you. They do it as a roadmap in Elk rather than a tree. But it's very much the same data. All right, so I'm going to use the original, right? And I'm going to try to make token again. So it still says current token ID with Jacko Network, but that might be the system token if I do network stuff. I just want to see if I can hit the domain controller here, since it seems as though I'm an admin too. Is it compiling a Go beacon on the fly? Yes, it is. Can I make the compile time faster? I guess, if I get a more performant machine. I don't know, like... There are some limits to what I can optimize here. It says the username or password is incorrect. Let's confirm. That I can actually get to it with this password. No, it's not. That's not the issue. The issue is that the user is not enabled for this kind of work, but this is admin 2. RDP, WMI, WinRM. I know WinRM's not enabled in this. Maybe RDP, but I don't think so. We'll try it, though. Stop! I see the problem. I was spelling Meredith like a sane human, not the banana spelling that they put here with an I. Okay, well, I've never once seen Meredith spelled that way. Let's try that again. Rep to self. Let's make the token with Meredith. Mm-hmm. How about now? And then... I mean, that's not even syntax. That's just like... I mean, I guess it's just spelling. What? Alright. Let's just see if I can SSH into this. Oh, yeah. So that's cool. Now I wonder if I want to see if I can do it this way with psexec. With this token. Access is denied. Okay, so not able with psexec, but I mean, not perhaps the most surprising thing. Although I do want to know if our SOC has lost its mind about anything here, because it should have. psexec execution should make noise. Nothing yet. So it seems like it does take up to 10 minutes for these to process. Things to note, though, that the Kerberos traffic from unusual process, that's a cool one, right, from Notepad. Unusual print spool or child process, that's going to be, if you have Sliver running a system, this is what you're going to see by default, right? Spools sv.exe. Now, you can change that, I believe. But if you just run get system, I believe that's what it's going to end up doing. Notepad and Kerberos could just be a file located. What? It could be a file located on a share, I guess. But yeah. Would that be Kerberos? I guess. Here's where it says, right, the process is default spools SV, and you can change it to whatever you want. Okay, other stuff that we know we have the ability to do here. There's password spraying. But we also have SMB stuff disabled, so what I might try is something like... yeah, here we go. Crack map exec SMB 10.1.99.3. The user is jackmeta.meredith. Password is this nonsense. And yes, we will quote that. And the domain is zeroday.local. And tell me about shares. Right, so that was the problem. And psexec I was sending, I don't have write anywhere, I just have reads. So that's the issue there. I'll tell you what else. I mean, I already have users, right? But another way I could have done that if I wanted to, now that I have this, is I could do... I love doing this. Rid brute force to find the users with cracked map exec. So good. Find some services. All these different users, groups, right? Just another way to get that same data. Let's see. Yeah, crack map exec is super powered. If we do have... Not over SMB, but if we try, like... We can try WMI, right? Nope. Why did I... Oh, WinRM. There's no way that WinRM is enabled in this environment. I specifically disabled it. No. It is... vulnAD must have re-enabled it for the domain. Cool. So that makes that way easier, actually. What can we do with that? Well, I have evil WinRM, and evil WinRM takes weird arguments. Evil WinRM, the IP 10.1.99.3. The user is jacquinetta.meredith. The fact that it's local admin on a domain controller is yikes city. But it might have to be 0day.local / yeah, there we go. And then the password, I don't think we need to put in at this point because it'll ask us for the password. Yeah. Oh, good call, just a guy. Thank you. Copy this ridiculous password. Establishing connection to remote endpoint.
Wearing safety belt shows that you're a responsible person. When you wear safety belts, you're thinking
Aw, nuts.
and others. You're taking action.
An error of type WinRM authorization error happened.
You're trying to prevent needless tragedy for yourself
That could be because this is wrong.
and all of us.
I really thought you had to specify domain though. With evil WinRM. Been a hot second since I used it. Realm. There it is. Or no, I guess not, because that's for tickets. Am I just losing my mind here? Yeah, I guess so. Let's try WMI. Check crack map exec. It didn't verify the authentication. Yeah, it did. Right here. That's how we got the shares. Bonjour, Vicoto. Ça va? Ça va bien, merci. Je dois pratiquer mon français. Jack Bonetta. I always forget. At 10.99.3. Yeah, there we go. It's probably a stupid syntax thing. Special sécurité. Wait. I am a cybersecurity specialist. My title is senior cybersecurity researcher, but that's mainly what that means is that I get paid to do two things at once. I get paid to threat hunt in my environment, meaning look for stuff that the enterprise tools missed, and then build detections to catch them next time. And then I also get paid to perform adversary emulation to test those defenses. Yeah, I don't think I have WMI permissions. This domain is like not as locked down as it, or is not as permissive as it could be. So I think the trick is that we found the password right in the description. We were able to authenticate it to it some way. In this case, it was via SSH. Am I OSCP certified? I am not, and I don't have any offensive security, like from the Offensive Security Corporation certifications, nor do I plan to get any. Taking a look at my notes as to what else the WazeHell script did. SMB signing is disabled. DC sync, maybe. Oh, interesting. I still want to see what our SOC did. So we've done a lot of gnarly stuff at this point. Let's focus on the defensive here to see what else we can see or what has been seen. Notice that we have a nice risk score for all of these things. So we do have suspicious processes from conhost, right? On ZDDC01. So conhost is the connection host. Yeah. And if we analyze this event, we can kind of see the chain go through here. It's weird that it alerts on terminations as opposed to anything else, but whatever. And what are the args here? Just cmd.exe. Conhost launches it headless from SSH. Right? So SSH picked it up and then launched the shell, which is what our login was, right? And that was considered abnormal because why is that happening, and who's this user? Let's look at our users for logins. This is kind of cool to see, right? We can see authentications, we can see failures, and actually looking at failures specifically can be very helpful because we can see who's failing to log in. Obviously, a bunch of failures for Jack Winetta. So, maybe something to be aware of. Should filter out con host with SSH, as that would be normal false positive SSH is not normally seen on the host, right? Kind of. I think that if you have user intelligence, then you should be enriching your data with that and making a better decision about that. For example, in this environment, the trick is, Angel, this is the domain controller. There is a limited set of users that should be connecting to that thing over SSH, right? If anything. So depending on the host that you're talking about, your crown jewels, you still want to be alerting on that. How normal is SSH on DC? Getting more normal every day. Ever since SSH became first-party supported in Windows environments, it's a much more appealing solution for ops teams who don't want to have to either use WinRM unencrypted, bad idea. Definitely don't want to do PSXEC. But like don't want to do WinRM unencrypted and don't want to go through the hassle of setting up the TLS certs that you have to do WinRM encrypted. You get all of that for free with SSH because you can do PS sessions, like PS remoting, with SSH as opposed to Windows remote management. That's a way more appealing way to manage things. Also, not for nothing, then the same, like if you were to use something like Ansible, like I do, you get to use the same tool to manage your Linux-like hosts and your Windows hosts. So yeah, I think the increase in usage of SSH is something to look for. Yeah, it sounds legit, but I think again, you want to enrich that with like crown jewels versus what users should be expected. So I might develop an alert that says like if anybody SSHs into this thing that isn't in my tier 0 right admins group or my domain admins group, we're gonna trigger an alert for it. Maybe it's legit, but I still want to know that it's happening, right? I'm even okay with a, let's say within 10% or so false positive rate, because like there's gonna be noise, but how do I put this? That noise to me, people are gonna really hate this take. Sometimes a low false positive rate to me is like the baseline hiss on an audio connection, like the phone connection. It's like I know the connection is working, right? Exactly. I don't want a detection that is failing silently and not detecting anything because my query is bogus. I'd much rather have a detection that catches more than it should than nothing at all. All right, so let's see. Do we have... what I really want to know is if there's a way to easily look for DC sync, because that's the next thing. And I think that's the last thing I want to do today. I left the company because they didn't listen to me about using WinRM encrypted versus PSExec. Versus time by PSExec. Yeah, it's gnarly. Shouldn't use it. Or it shouldn't be, it should make noise in your environment, right? Yes, PS remoting is good when used properly. I agree. Simplex991 asks, just started in SOC, and this might be a stupid question. No stupid questions here. But I was wondering what a use case is in the context of a SOC and or SIM. What is a use case? Like, what is the definition of a use case? It depends on the thing you're talking about, honestly, Simplex. Like, use case means example of usage. That's all that means. Use case is just business jargon for way in which a thing might get used. So, for example, threat hunting for malicious Oh, what is SIM used for? I don't know if that was the question, Angel. I read that as what does use case mean in the context of SOC or SIM? Right, it's just business jargon. Often in meetings when they talk about customers, they often talk about this customer's X amount of use cases or have a use case. So basically they're saying, I see what you mean. So in those vendor conversations, use cases are ways in which your product can be, or a product can be used. So for example, when we are talking to a vendor or we're trying to do an RFP, we'll say, here are our use cases, meaning things that we want to do. You need to, in your response to this request for proposals, this RFP, you need to cover these different functionalities, these different use cases that we could use your tool for. How does it work? What can it do? What can it do? Right? So that's kind of what use case means in that particular context. Ugh. Vendor meetings. One of the things that I like to talk about, or that I want to demonstrate here on the stream, is that you can do a lot of pretty deep level threat hunting and defense without paying for products, right? I've spent $0 on defensive software for this SOC. Use cases include detection queries. It depends on the level of the conversation. Maybe. But custom detection engineering would definitely be like a SOC or a SIM use case. So, give you an example. So, if you're, let's say your EDR dashboard, not really a SIM, but they kind of get there. Yeah, can it detect on X, Y, Z? Or even more broadly, can I write custom detections, or do all the detection rules come from the vendor? Right? So some EDRs will let you do that, some won't. And so that's a question. A lot of people are going to try to also map use cases onto MITRE ATT&CK. I have to stop using this business jargon or I'm going to throw myself out a window. I just don't. Because all of these things have value, but they become absolutely harvested of that value simply for business purpose, simply to make money. Take MITRE ATT&CK, right? MITRE ATT&CK has value as an informational resource, as a way to think about attacks, as a way to imagine your coverage across different tactics and techniques. It's not a checklist, there was a good Twitter conversation about that this week. It's not a checklist, and it's not meant to be a selling point for vendors. That's not what it's supposed to do. But every EDR on Earth is going to be like, we cover 99.99% of MITRE attack. That means it's utterly meaningless. You just figured out a way to put 99.9% on the front of the box. Okay. I have to be careful because I will just lose it and go off on vendor practices. And we want to do one last thing here, which is look at DC sync. Now, I believe... Find principles with DC sync rights. Oh, yeah! There are principles with DC sync rights. Specifically, Alvinia Alexis. Interesting. Now, I do not have this user. But let's look at the help for this. Has DS replication get changes on 0 local. These two privileges allow principal to perform a DC sync attack. Now, do I... Do I need to do anything special? Because I have a system... I guess what I'm saying is... If I want to DC sync from this, and this is really where, like, the edge of where I'm learning for CRTO. Do I want to make a token with this user, but I don't have a ticket, right? I don't have a Kerberos ticket for this person to do DC syncs. Which is kind of the problem. If you have the user's hash, you can request a TGT. Right, okay. So... but I don't. I don't have the user's hash. So, some gaps. Vulnerable AD, I like it a lot. I do think there are maybe some, in terms of just like reviewing this as a tool, maybe if I had created more users or something like that, there would be more options. But it does seem like there's some gaps in terms of doing a pivot. You know what I mean? Because that's really what you want to have, is something that allows you to create a pivoted environment. Because we can do AS-REP, we can do Kerberos. There's DNS admins, that's interesting. But again, for what we've done so far, I think we have a couple of good takeaways. The first is that Sliver out of the box, I mean, it makes some noise, but you really got to be watching for it. Now, some of what we did get caught by Defender, and the reason it got caught was because we did a lot of create remote thread stuff. That's what it usually alerts on, okay? And so if you keep it in the same process, you're much less likely to get burned by it. And those are options that you have in Sliver, actually. But after that, it's pretty much just down to unusual, like, principal or child processes, but we can change that again. So the issue here was that this was running with notepad.exe. So what we're seeing here is that without changing the defaults, you can see sliver behavior pretty easily. But after that, if we change these defaults, you may have to be a little bit more careful with your detections, right? Because we were spawning into Notepad as opposed to something that made more sense for Spool's SV. And we can even look at this rule to see how it's configured. Behold. Exclusions. So, let's see. Process where parent name spools SV and not process.name. SPL wow, route.exe, where fault. So if we use where fault, we won't trigger the alert. This is the thing. If you can see both sides, it can be really helpful. Give you an let's actually try that. See if it triggers one more thing. So go back over here and I don't want to do ps exec. And this is spools SV. That's fine. But if I run Right, so we're in spools SV. But there are going to be other processes. The trick is So what is so I'm trying to figure out what is triggering Notepad here. Because this was later in our execution, right? And it was as Jacquinetta Meredith. So what are the things we did as Jacquinetta Meredith? Was it make token? Maybe it was. Do we have options for make token? Nope. And it wouldn't just be impersonate logged on user. It wouldn't, unless it's so you know what? For this, we're gonna have to go to does Sliver produce logs for executed commands and sessions? Honestly, don't know. But if I'm looking, so this was at 11:40. This was a while ago. So this might have been this must have been the execute assembly stuff, which again we can fix, right? So if we run the execute assembly again, like what else do we have? Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's most of those are Mimikatz. But that's really funny. So if we run, we'll run Mimikatz again. Go to self just in case I have a token. Let's go back to the system session. And just going to go back to... I've got an execute assembly in here. Yes, I'm doing this rather than looking for it. So... Who is this? I know we need the hash, but I'm just trying to run it. So who had the DC sync commands? The DC sync? Alvinia Alexis. But here's the thing. We're going to do execute assembly. And I think it's System 32, but we'll just check it out. C, Windows, System 32. Where fault? Yeah, awesome. That's going to be our process path. Oh, that's important to know. You've got to double escape. Or sorry, not double, but you have to escape your backslashes. You must supply a password. Yes, I know. I know. What else? I'm in the wrong window here. User with default password, change 123, password spraying. Silver ticket, golden ticket, pass the hash. Yeah, right. I'd love to see some ADCS in here, because I know it set it up. Would that be process spoofing? I don't think so. Because it's legitimately using the process, but it's just it's process injection is what it's doing. Because what it's doing, create remote thread into that process once it fires it up. So, like, despite the fact... This is going to be tricky, because how do you prove a negative, right? But I'm actually going to go over to just discover. I'm going to see what we have for wherefault.exe. Yeah, this just happened. Network connection from wherefault. This is actually a great detection, right? So connecting to the domain controller over LDAP from wherefault.exe. I love this. That's a really cool detection, right? And then here's wherefault getting launched. And where's our process.parent? Right? Spools SV. So we have it in here. We have the evidence that it took place. At first glance, like, does this look weird? The network connection should look weird. The LDAP from Wherefault, that's weird. But otherwise, no. So the second you start messing with defaults in this stuff, all of a sudden, little bit odd. Yeah. Since we played right into the exceptions for false positives for that rule, I don't think we're going to find it. So yeah, important lesson to be learned there. Okay, so as a starter point for developing a vulnerable AD lab, I think this is kind of cool. There's some other stuff that I would love to see in it. I know that there are more expansive ones. They tend to take a little bit more time to set up, so I might give that the time to do, so that we can have actual pivot opportunities and things like that to really move through an environment that way. Because I'd like to basically do kind of a Wreath or Hollow in our own environment so that we can play with it the way that we want to play with it. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for today. Been a long stream. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out. Oh, it doesn't look like anybody else is on right now. So I will be back on Wednesday doing some chill code, maybe doing some programming on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific. Until next time, friends, then please be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and happy hacking. We'll see you next time.